Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Live with Liz. I am glad that you're joining me today. We are talking about web accessibility for law firms. And, we talk a lot about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we don't spend a lot of time talking about that I for inclusion. And this accessibility discussion that we're having today, this is directly focused on inclusion, and it's focused on inclusion online. So much of our initial communications with clients happens online. It happens on the web, and your website is critical component of that. That's, the window into who you are. And I think maybe you might be familiar with some of these vague terms when it comes to web accessibility, but we don't often talk about web accessibility for law firms and why law firms should have it. Now, if you're in a firm that practices with internet, data privacy, websites, domains, maybe you have experience with this and know what some of the terminology means and know what some of the compliance features are and what companies have to do in order to be accessible. Maybe you know why they have to do it, but we don't spend a lot of time on this. So let's spend a minute and figure out, why do we have to do this? Why is this important? Is it important? And yes, it's very important, and it's the right thing to do aside from that. And also, it may be a legal requirement in your jurisdiction that you're just unfamiliar with. In the United States, many of you may be aware, we are quite litigious people. We will file a lawsuit at the drop of a hat. Oh no, we need to file a lawsuit. But there are a lot of legitimate reasons that people file lawsuits. And in this space, it keeps happening. We have regulations in place to help people with disabilities. Hey, Leah, it's nice to see you from Brazil. I know it's later there than it is for us, but thanks for being here. So the idea that some people are able to easily understand your website, get to it on the internet, figure out what it's saying, use it, learn from it, engage with you, communicate. Not all people can do that. And people have all sorts of limitations that make it important for people to be able to access information. And for companies like your clients who have to already deal with this and figure out what makes the most sense, it makes business sense as well as legal sense. I'm not an attorney, so that's not legal advice, but it does make business sense in addition to the regular compliance that you might be expected to do. Now, whether it's a legal requirement in your jurisdiction, you would know better than me. But there are a lot of regulations out there that touch upon this subject. In the United States, we have the Americans with Disabilities Act. I know that there are several regulations in Europe as well that make a difference in what needs to happen. And some of that legislation is in depth. There's a lot of information out there. Compliance can be confusing. That's where maybe the lawyers come in. And there are a lot of different aspects to it. Maybe you have to have an accessibility statement on your website. Maybe you have to have regular audits to see if your website is in compliance. And for law firms that are advising companies in this space, and if you're not, maybe you should be, but for law firms that are advising their clients on how to be compliant with these regulations, it makes total sense that the law firm's website itself would be accessible. And I have rarely come across a law firm website that has a level of accessibility or compliance that would demonstrate that area of expertise. So from where I sit as a business development and marketing professional, it serves a lot of purposes for a law firm to be in compliance itself and to offer that level of accessibility. There are some confusing things out there. If you're not in the internet space, you may or may not have heard of W3C. This is the World Wide Web Consortium. The World Wide Web Consortium is an international community with member organizations that establishes norms and guidelines for how the internet is used and works around the world. And the WC3 has adopted this level 2A global standard for web accessibility. And this is meant to comply with the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it's also meant to comply with European regulation. But that guide, I looked this up, it is over 1,000 pages, and it's a pretty difficult to digest. In a nutshell, there are some easy things that can be done with a website that doesn't necessarily take away from its marketing perspective or its aesthetic or your branding or who you are, although it might affect it somewhat, for people who have certain disabilities. And there are a lot of people that are affected by limitations when it comes to being able to use your website. People who are blind, who might need to use screen readers, is one. People who have motor impairments and can only, for example, use a keyboard to navigate. Can your website do that? There are people who have epilepsy and can be triggered by different flashing lights or videos or certain colors. And people who are colorblind to begin with, who can't necessarily navigate around your screen because you have to click on a certain color or be able to tell that something is different from something else because of the color it is. And maybe that's something that just didn't go into the process when your website was created. Cognitive and learning disabilities can also present challenges for people who are trying to use a website. Visual impairments, of course, present a challenge for people who are trying to see a website. And there are many more different things that people experience as limitations when it comes to accessing information on the web. But there are tools out there that can help you make simple modifications to your website. There are tools out there that can automate that process. And those same tools can also easily keep you in compliance. And as a law firm, whether you are or are not advising clients in this space, I would recommend that the more inclusive you are, I do say the more inclusive you are, the more likely it is that, you'll feel good at the end of the day. And also, the more people will be able to access your website. So we want more people to access it, not less. And we want all people to be able to benefit from being able to use the information that you so heartily put out there in the world on your websites. You put a lot of work into your blog. Everyone should be able to read it. That's, of course, natural, right? So I think now is a good time to let you all know that Firm Forward has partnered with a company called Accessiby. And this is one of those tools. This is one of those tools out there. And what this tool does is an audit of your website. It makes recommendations about where you can improve the content on your site, whether it's changing a font size or using a different color, or perhaps giving you advice about video, or maybe even, an experience of downloading information. All of these things it considers, it looks at your entire site, and then it makes recommendations. But beyond that, there's a widget that is unobtrusive, can be branded to match your branding, and it has this option for people who need additional modifications when it comes to accessibility. And when you click on the widget, that opens a menu for people to be able to select different options that make slight modifications to help them access your information. It's really cool, and it's easy to use. It's easy to add to your website, and it's something that it's just such a small thing that can make your firm more inclusive. And that can then be demonstrative to your clients about what compliance looks like in a meaningful way. And you lead by example. You become a leader in this space, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's not very expensive. So there shouldn't be a real budgetary concern when it comes to investing in accessibility for your website to be able to reach more people and to be able to demonstrate that you yourself are in compliance. That only makes sense that you would want to be that way. Now, the guidelines that I spoke about, that 1,000-page thing, that's called WCAG 2.1. What on earth? That's Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and version 2.1. That's what I referenced. That is over 1,000 pages long. So if you do have a practice in this area and you haven't digested that yet, it's available online. And perhaps something that your team wants to go through to dig a little deeper into your own level of compliance and the services that you provide to your clients in this space. One of the other things you can do as you become compliant yourself and you learn more about doing this as a law firm, you can go ahead and either become a partner or create these, you can create guidelines and helpful information for your clients in compliance packages. You can do audits for them and let them know that they need to become compliant. And then of course, there is this other marketing aspect for firms around the world that are becoming more conscientious about being inclusive, about being diverse, and about being equitable. All of these things matter, but this is another way that is simple but meaningful and impactful to create more inclusivity in your own space. And there's really no reason not to, and so many reasons to do it. From that marketing and business development perspective, I mean, having an accessibility statement, it has multiple benefits, not just compliance. Okay, yeah, great, you're in compliance, but also putting yourself out there and showcasing what you're doing for DEI, and that you are taking action, and that it matters. It matters to your community. It matters to your clients. It matters to the corporations that rely on you. It matters in the educational space that you're connected to. And all of these effects that happen when you take that initiative to go ahead and implement something like this kind of spill over in such a great way and can create more business for you. It's not just about being in compliance, which, we all want to be in compliance, but it's also about generating business and about good marketing technique. And this is something that hopefully the web developers that you're working with have thought about in advance. And if they haven't, it's not too late. You still can, and it's not that difficult to make these changes. But it is a good practice to go ahead and get that audit done. And it's simple enough to use the same tool to do it. Now, when it comes to accessibility, there are some steps involved. There is some JavaScript available. Depending on the type of website you have, it can get kind of technical. There's some coding that you can put into your site. You can use a plugin if you're on WordPress. There's an AI process involved in this. So for those IP firms out there that are all about this space with AI, this should be very interesting for you. And then there's maintenance. And some of these tools operate automatically, as I said before, but the one that we partnered with does this automatic scan every 24 hours. So you can get notifications seamlessly when it comes to figuring out what you need to do in this space. And we only have a couple of minutes left. So before I leave you on this note, if anybody would like a more in-depth demo of what this looks like, if anyone would like an audit of their own site, we're happy to do that for you. And we will drop a link in our comments with to the tool we're talking about that anybody can use. And I'm not so sure about language support. That's a good question. But eventually we will figure that out. So it doesn't take very long for you to see what it looks like, and for you to go ahead and implement it for your own website. And if you're not ready to go ahead and implement it, but you want to see what it looks like, just give us a shout. We'll set up a quick call. It will only take a few minutes to show you, or you can visit our website and take a look at the widget on our site, and you can see exactly what it looks like. It kind of follows when you scroll down. It's branded to be our colors. You just click on it and you can see the different options that people have. And it's unobtrusive and very easy to navigate. So that's in a nutshell what web accessibility means and looks like, and what it accomplishes, and how to get it will be a link in the comments after the video. And then on another note, I am super excited because on Thursday, oh my goodness, that's tomorrow, I'm leaving for Medellin for ICIPI, the Inter-American Association of IP has their annual meeting in Colombia this year. And it seems like everything is finally back on track post-pandemic, and that there's a lot of excitement around this event. And I'm excited to be there too. So if you happen to be in Colombia, please let me know. I will be happy to meet with you there. And hey, everybody, have a great rest of your week. There may not be a Live with Liz next week because I'll be at ICIPI, but we'll pick up again the week after. And if you have any questions, comments, whatever, you can always reach us at solutions@firmforward.com. Oh, thanks so much, Mariana. I wish you were coming, hopefully next year. And that's it for Live with Liz. Take care, everybody.